Audit is a very fast activity. You have limited time and you have a lot of things to look into. So you have a big checklist, you have a lot of areas to be covered, and then you go through each area, you look at your checklist, you review things, you observe things, you look at the documents, you talk to people. So many things are happening at that time. And at that time, one thing you should keep in your mind is, end of the day, you need to prepare a report also. So notes taking is very important. So if you are not taking notes properly, you will really get stuck when it comes to making that final report. You looked at a sample, you looked at a piece, but now when it comes to the time to make report, you don't remember what that piece was. What was the identification of that? You found a problem, but now you don't know what that particular piece was, where the problem was. You talked to a person, but what was the name of that person? Now you don't remember that. That will happen at the end of audit if your notes taking is not good. So notes taking, make sure that your notes taking is quite comprehensive, very accurate, precise, and legible. Because end of the day, you have to make a report. End of the day, when you say there is something not conforming to the system, you need to tell the reference or the product number or the item description. And if you don't have those in your records, I'm sure you will not remember that, because so many things would have happened in that 1 day or 2 days when you were auditing, you will not remember things. So make sure that you have proper records or proper notes during that audit process. For notes taking, let's look at few examples. So when you look at a document, make sure that you note down the title of the document number, document revision, date of issue, and where did you see that document. You saw a particular drawing in the production shop, make note of that this particular drawing with this revision number, this issue date was seen on production floor. That's where the problem was. Make the full comprehensive notes of that particular document detail. If you are looking at a part or the item being produced, note down the item description. If there's any identification mark on the item, note that down. If you are talking to the person, note down the name of the person, the title of the person, the department of the person. You will not remember that. Particularly, I am very bad at remembering names. So now I make sure that I write down the full name of the person I talk to, the title of that person, and department of that person. Because you meet so many people and you might not remember name of everybody in that discussion. When I'm saying note down the name, there is a general convention that when you make the final audit report, you don't name a name in that audit report. So when you talk to Mr. X of production department, when you make actual report, you don't put the name of Mr. X there. You just say that I talk to department supervisor of production department. Just write the designation of the person. So you don't want to make it very personal. You don't want to make that report very personal. So it's always, as a practice, we note down the name in our notes, but when it comes to making that audit report, it's preferred not to be very specific on the name. Just put the designation of the person. During your audit process, you will see few things which you are not certain, which are sort of a doubtful, which are not very clear, which are not very obvious. So for those type of things, for those type of situations, you need to corroborate. And when I say corroborate is basically making sure that that particular thing is, what you have observed is right. How does this corroboration is done is by different sort of evidences. So matching the evidence, documentary evidence with the personal evidence. So you don't believe on one particular item. For example, suppose a person in the machine shop says that whether the item is accepted or rejected, we just accept that. So this is just one statement, and this is a doubtful and this is a serious situation. Now the machinist, which is making the final product, he says that our inspection doesn't work. Whether the product is right or wrong, we just dispatch that. So should you believe that? This is a situation which is very questionable, which is sort of a doubtful. You need to verify that. And how do you verify that? you need to verify that with a different sort of evidences. And these evidences could be talking to few more operators. This could be looking at the inspection reports. Somehow you need to make sure that the situation, which is a doubtful situation, which is a questionable situation, you need to reconfirm that through number of other options. So you just don't believe on one thing, you check and recheck. And that's what is happening in the court of law also. In the court of law also, if the witness says one thing, the court will not accept that as straight away as a fact. That particular witness is supported by the actual physical evidences. So once everything matches, that only is taken as a fact. So once again, particularly in doubtful situations or where the situation is controversial, make sure that you verify that fact through number of channels, number of options, rather than just believing on one fact and making that as a big issue. So in the audit interview process, now we have looked at documents, records, we have talked to people, we have observed things, we had made notes of all those things, we have cross-checked those items. Now it's time to make audit report and note down the findings. So what do you do? What is a finding? Finding is something which is a comparison between what was required and what is the actual fact. So if the actual matches with the requirement, then this is conformity. And if the actual situation doesn't match with the requirement, then it is a non-conformity. So now it's a time to record audit findings. As I have already told, finding could be conformity, finding could be non-conformity. Both are findings. Then non-conformities are graded. Non-conformities are graded as observation, as minor non-conformity, and major non-conformity. We will look into details of that on a separate discussion, on a separate topic. So always review the audit findings with the auditee, because many times there is a possibility that you might have misunderstood something. So once you have concluded that whether the system is being complied or system is not being complied, and you have already recorded the facts, then reconfirm that with auditee before you leave that place. That will help you in getting audit process smooth, because if there is a misunderstanding, those misunderstandings will come out in the closing meeting, and that will not be really a good thing to do. So always verify things with auditee, confirm with auditee that okay, this is what I'm recording. So I'm recording that this particular process is doing good, this process is going good, and this particular process you have done beyond your normal thing, and this is an excellent thing you have done. So that I'm putting as a strength, and these are the areas where you are not complying with the system, and these are the samples I have seen. Confirm with the auditee before you leave the place. So in case of audits where there are more than one auditors, you convey your audit findings to other team members also, and this you do periodically, not at the end of the audit. If it's a 3 days audit, probably end of the day you review your audit findings with other auditors as well, because that way other auditors get some clue which probably they can confirm the next day when they are doing audit. So now we are reaching at the last step of the audit interview and data collection process, where the team sits together, the audit team sits together, and the lead auditor takes lead, and lead auditor takes all the audit findings from all the auditors and makes the final conclusion. This is done prior to the closing meeting. All audit findings are reviewed, and the audit team agrees on the conclusion. If everything is good and fine, the team agrees that okay, the system is being complied with, there is no problem, or maybe they list down the number of non-conformities or the number of findings. So they agree on things before the closing meeting, and then they prepare recommendations which they want to give to auditee management during the closing meeting. Another thing which the audit team need to ensure here is that their audit objective has been achieved. What was the purpose of the audit, that has been achieved or not, and all the audit scope which they plan to cover, whether all that area has been covered or not, and they make sure that the audit criteria is fulfilled. So if this was ISO 9001 audit, they make sure that all the requirements of ISO 9001 are being complied with or not. So that is the audit conclusion, and once everything is agreed, now this audit team will go and present the audit findings to the auditee management.